Okay, I'm going to go over the bone markings of the skull. So each one of these markings has a number associated with them. And this will be just kind of a general overview of these markings. So we're going to start off with the front of the face and skull. And we'll kind of just start up here at the bone. That's located basically in your forehead. It's number 1. It's the frontal bone. As we make our way down, we're going to have 2 numbers kind of in the upper brow region. Number 11 is the supraorbital ridge. Number 12 has an arrow pointing to a foramen. It's a supraorbital foramen. And then as we move down to the nose, okay, we have a number of different bones here. The bridge of your nose is the nasal bone. Then we move into the inside, and that's actually a 17. It kind of looks like a 14. If we look over here on the other side, you can see a closer 17. And you notice there's a little cavity there. That cavity is where your tear ducts sit. Those are called lacrimal glands. So that's the lacrimal bone, number 17. On the inside of the orbit, we have 2 bones. We have a number 9 there. Actually, I'll come over here. There's a number 9 there and a number 10. Number 9 is the sphenoid bone. And number 10, you can see, is basically numbered there, but then you have a number 10 also over here. That's because the zygomatic bone, number 7, rests on the ethmoid bone, which is number 10. Okay, so we have frontal, supraorbital ridge, supraorbital foramen, nasal bone, lacrimal bone, 17, sphenoid bone, number 9, ethmoid bone, number 10, and your cheekbone, number 7, is the zygomatic bone. You have a foramen under the orbit, and that is the infraorbital foramen, number 4. Then we have a 23 here, goes all the way over. So that whole bone right there is 23. That's your upper jaw, which is the maxilla bone. And as we move to the lower jaw, the full bone, number 24, is a ramus bone called the mandible. We have a hole in the actual mandible. So number 6 is a foramen in the mandible called the mental foramen. As we make our way over to kind of the side of the skull, kind of take the mandible away. So we have the zygomatic bone, which is number 7. We've already identified that bone. There's a process that comes off the zygomatic bone called the zygomatic process, number 22. Number 3 is the temporal bone. Number 14 is pointing to a suture, and a suture is a joint between 2 bones. This is called the sagittal suture. We also have another suture up here called the coronal suture. Down at the bottom of the bone, so if you kind of take your hand and you place it underneath your ear, you feel a bump. That would be number 19. It's called the mastoid process. Down here we have this really pointy process called the styloid process. So stylus is a point or a pen. And then we have this opening, number 21. It's called the external auditory meatus. Number 2 is a bone on the side of your skull called the parietal bone. We have a suture that divides the left and right parietal bone over here, number 18. It's called a sagittal suture. As we make our way to the back of the head, we have another suture that separates the parietal bones from the occipital bone, and that's 15, called the lambdoid suture. Then we actually have the bone on the back of the head, number 16, called the occipital bone. So those are all the bone markings of the skull, and those are the ones that you're responsible for. So you need to indicate the name of the bone marking in reference to its location. Forgot one bone marking down here, number 5, which is a marking in between kind of the nasal bone or the nostrils. It's called the vomer bone, or I'm sorry, vomer bone marking, V-O-M-E-R, vomer.